Hi, my name is Joyce Almanza. Today I will be presenting the significance of the event that occurred on January 6, 2021, also known as the attack on the U.S. Capitol or storming of the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. The event took place on January 6, 2021 in Washington, D.C. This is dubbed to be known as the storming of the United States Capitol by mob supporters of Republican former President Donald J. Trump. This was after a heavily criticized and controversial election of both candidates, Joe Biden and Donald J. Trump. The noon of January 6, a rally formed in support of Trump. He made a speech in which he also claimed election fraud and called on Vice President Mike Pence to overturn the 2020 election results by refusing to certify certain electoral votes. Near the end of his speech, several thousand attendees began marching toward the U.S. Capitol, where a crowd had assembled and was clashing with police. By early afternoon, the rioters broke through police barricades. The mob entered the Capitol building, ransacking the building itself. Not soon after, both the Senate and House of Representatives, which were in the middle of debating a Republican objection to Arizona's electoral votes, were adjourned. Many influential political figures were evacuated from the building, and the National Guard was called by Acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller. The object was to prevent a legitimate president-elect from assuming office. The attack was widely regarded as an insurrection or attempted coup d'etat. A bit more context about political extremism. Repressive governments often use violence to maintain their grip on power, leading many individuals to turn towards extremist movements as a means of opposing political regimes and leaders. An academic PDF written by Frederick Ebert Stiftung, The Rise of Religious Radicalism in the Arab World, gives context of how the group Jihad gained support. Tactics used was by media, attracting sympathy, role support, political motivation, exchange of experiences, and personal communication.
January 6th started off pretty much like any other day. It wasn't until I started listening to the speeches that I felt that day was going to be a bad day.
You have to show strength, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
I work in what should be one of the most secure buildings in the whole world.
It just never occurred to me that a mob would get into the Capitol building.
When you really believe a tyrannical government is taking over the country, you're going to have some crazy stuff go down.
It was soccer balls, truck drivers. It was America.
People with pitchforks, baseball bats sticking out of their bag, people in full tactical outfits.
Pepper spray started coming out, gas grenades started going off, just broke into pure anarchy.
Individuals themselves aren't usually a problem, but when they get together and they create a mob, the mob is the weapon.
To hear the radio transmissions is very chilling.
13 hours, Capitol has been breached.
I had all these thoughts in my mind, like, could there be a shootout on the United States Senate floor?
Everybody was making a call to someone, the last phone call. I just started to pray.
I have literally bled for this country in combat, and they were all yelling, "You are traitors to your oath, enemy of the people." It was like, how fucking dare you?
They wanted to stop this election. If we were in the way, they were going to kill us to do it.
I didn't think I was going to go home that day.
Communications in line with combat.
Multiple capital injuries.
I just watched her life drain right out of her eyes.
40 or 50 officers battling 15,000 people.
I
I've been a police officer for 2 decades.
A mob grabbed him.
He was having difficulty breathing. You don't have to take my word for it. Watch my body-worn camera footage.
Peaceful patriots.
Started getting tased at the base of my skull.
Very frightening.
Here are some reactions of the event that occurred on January 6th. This quote reads by Joe Biden. Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault, Mr. Biden said on Friday. They were intersectionists, not patriots. They were not there to uphold the Constitution. They were there to destroy the Constitution. After Donald J. Trump was granted immunity by the Supreme Court following these events, many families and victims sent letters, one of which was the brother of Brian, a Capitol Police officer who died of stroke 1 day after defending the Richwist mob, Craig Sicknick. The quote reads, "The courts of the United States are supposed to rule on punishment of people who broke the laws of our country, regardless of color, gender, wealth, political position, fame, and any other differences we may have as individuals," the letter said. "We have learned once again that this concept is false, with the very wealthy literally getting away with whatever they want." End of quote. After this event took place, the media presented the riot as an attack for democracy. An attack which is still wavering discussion of political extremism through the right wing. When this took place, my personal reaction to this was just a fact. Of the majority people's reactions was mine as well. The U.S. Capitol not only signifies the representation of the U.S. as a whole, but also our Constitution. It signifies an emphasis on democracy, on freedom, on our national security. When this event took place, I was at university. Shortly after the pandemic. 2020, many of us were at home watching the news and many controversial speeches from both candidates. Not only did the pandemic let us be more in tune with media, digital media, but also let us see a new perspective on politicians, their opinions, facts, both, and how their election was going to impact the U.S. in the future to come. And here are my citations.